Sunday, June 2nd, Toronto.
Leonard goes hard. Finish.
Friday, June 10th, Toronto.
Ibaka trying to stay with Durant. Knocks it away and Durant slipping. It's the right calf.
We don't live in a vacuum. We have examples. We have all the light of history and the darkness that itches, the one right behind you. And this keeps happening.
Snap right there. Writhing in pain. Yeah, he's struggling.
Let me make this clear. This is not about the Warriors pressuring KD. This is not an indictment of this man.
I am the president of basketball.
And whatever blame he absorbs and deflects, whatever guilt he bears, this is just an examination of how the moment, the short-term thinking that leads to these moments can look so sound, and how we get there.
If you have to.
So let's start with this statement. KD went out fully on board. Yes, and fully on board as any conflicted human being could possibly be. Listen, this is the first myth we need to knock down. Nobody is ever 100% sure about something they can't be 100% sure about. Sometimes we make decisions, and sometimes we just do the shit we're expected to do, and all of a sudden we've made a decision. And most often, most people, in my own life, where stuff is risky or doubtful, but I still want to do it, I tell myself every which kind of way that I'm 100% sure. See, you have to be 100%, because if you're 99, then you're not sure. 99% sure is not sure. And in most real life cases, when the actual decision isn't black and white, yes or no, show up to work or not, all the gray doesn't matter. The percentage of sure doesn't matter. You don't need to be 100% sure or even confident. You just need to keep doing the things that lead you to the critical point. Before the decision is before you, and before you know it, you've made a decision. All right, this may be too abstract. You ever been going to a place like in a car, and the whole time you're like, fuck, I do not want to go to this place. Driving there, you're just completely sure you really do not want to go. And then all of a sudden, bam, you're there. At the party, at the stakeout, at the crime scene, at our house, on the court. These choices to play are not 100%. The problem is, the result is 100%. Here, let's let Bob explain the gray in decisions.
Not a lot of people in his situation will express vulnerability because it's perceived as weakness. Right before he made the decision, he said something like, I don't know what to do, this is so hard. That to me was pretty profound, to hear someone that's supposed to be some kind of superhero acknowledging he's a human being, which is obviously he is, but sometimes we forget that, and we all have to make these choices in our careers, and they're hard. And sometimes there's a fork in the road, and it's not, it's a tough one. And we've all relate to that, but we don't have it plastered all over society.
So yeah, that was about KD coming to the Warriors. But damn if it doesn't feel mighty appropriate for this current KD decision-making process. We could stop right here, but no. Because when you go down the list of steps that get you from a grain of sand to a pile of sand, you can't play, now doctors say you can. Wow, just like that. You are now cleared to play. It's almost magical how that happens. One day you are not, and one day you are. That's it. The mysterious Hulk-like real-life healing power we have has crossed some threshold, and now you are a butterfly, I guess. All cleared for takeoff. Go nuts. But only if you want, right? You're all cleared, but only if you want. Katie, you're in, right? The doctors cleared you. You feel good, don't you? Look, you can walk, jump. You can simulate game time intensity. One by one, the pile, the pressure mounts, and the story swells, and the Kawakami's right, and the leaks hit peak pressure to Katie, you in, right? It's a yes or not yes question, Katie, but there are leaps of faith all over this canyon of a scenario. Listen, who are players putting their faith in? This is my real question. And is there anyone inside this system to say, let's think long term? Or is there still another issue here? A virus, maybe. A mental infection of toughness. This virus here.
I don't ever want to see anybody get hurt, but that's what we do. We play basketball. I was taught that if you can walk, you can play.
A virus that creates delusions of grandeur, duty, and nobleness. Great warriors wearing the scars of battle proudly.
Kevin McHale, you see how he walks? Phil Jackson, you see how he walked? You see how Chuck walked? You see how I walk? Well, guess what? It was worth it.
And in the light, we don't hide our scars in the shadows. We shine a fucking spotlight on them. Well, sometimes. But typically, the sacrifices of a cult are not published so well, and this practice is wholeheartedly exploited by these guys too. These executives know it. They know it's a self-imposed prison of thought that players get snarled into. Because in the end, when the doctor steps back into the shadows laying nothing but a green light, who is it that we leave the decision to? Well, of course, we ask the one with it all on the line. A pressurized, time-sensitive are you with us or not decision, all on his shoulders, while everyone in blue nods slowly. Who is in his head right now? Who has caution and skepticism and the audacity to question the system? Simultaneously, KD is the absolute wrong person to ask, but unfortunately, he's the only person you can ask. Just because he owns the parts doesn't mean he's the expert of the parts. How many times do people hide pain and ailments in exchange for temporary convenience or pleasure or praise? I doubt he knows how to read an MRI. Prove me wrong, please. And this is not a conspiracy. KD's doctors, the Warriors' doctors, did their job. They demonstrated that this was the time his injury could withstand. But the weight of the moment is on everyone. And even when you are all clear, it's still up to you. We are dealing in a complete leap of faith. This is a system with layers and layers of intent and motivation. KD was not in every meeting about his injury, about his own damn leg. This is like a lawyer telling you the only chance you have is to plead guilty and beg for mercy. But you know deep down, you want a trial. You're not a lawyer. And the message never changes. The pressure continues. Folks really think KD is sitting here weighing all the options, making the best possible decision for his life, when the entire infrastructure of his existence is saying, don't be soft. The proverbial wise men, the elders, yell at you and tell you, come on, accept your fate as a hobbled, chronically injured man. It is your fucking destiny. Come to the fucking light, KD. How do you say no to this?
What is that?
It's a snowball.
Kawhi sat out a whole year, and he took shit. He made mortal enemies with the most respected man in basketball, and Greg Popovich. He was banished to another country, in the ice, and with the tattered remains of his reputation, he built himself back up one grain of sand at a time. But Kawhi's different. He's a different dude, right? That's what we say. There's not a brain in there, right? It's like wires. But he also had an advocate. He had someone outside the industry in his other ear, saying nah. And that's Kawhi's uncle. Pushing back on all the cliches of the grifting, hustling, no-good uncle, he was the opposite force balancing out what came in the other side. And sometimes that's all it takes to give you enough courage to say no. It's still Kawhi's choice. You think these people are different. If you believe other athletes, you'd know these people are different. But they're possessed. They're professionals. Do we have to go back to Bob's soundbite?
Right before he made the decision, he said something like, I don't know what to do, this is so hard. That to me was pretty profound, to hear someone that's supposed to be some kind of superhero acknowledging he's a human being, which is obviously he is, but sometimes we forget that.
They're just people. And who really knows if Kawhi's story is even real? Maybe it was leverage. Maybe all the doctors did say he could play. Maybe his own doctors said he could play, but he didn't feel it. The only thing we do know is that he did not want to risk it for that moment or that team. And then there's the godfather of looking out for number one. Derrick Rose. He had the entire galaxy on his back, down his spine, up his ass, telling him exactly the kind of disrespectful fuck up he was.
Derrick Rose is making $20 million a year. He got a couple bad knees. That's disrespectful to maids, people who in the army.
His own city turned on him. But he told us what his life was and what he saw.
How do you block out kind of all the outside noise? I mean, especially when former players were kind of like questioning your comments from a couple weeks ago, Charles, Shaq, guys like that.
I can't get mad at that, man. That's their opinions. It's what I said at the time. That's what I felt. And when things happen like that, I always gotta stay positive with my train of thought. I know that it's a bigger picture than what everyone sees, and I know that in the future this is just going to be minor.
And I don't know how, if it was only him, all on him to say no. This was the strongest thing I've ever seen a man do. All respect to John Henry. But Derrick did not come out the other side on top. He paid in many ways, but he never compromised the option to opt no. And then we saw an unlikely hero, He rose higher than anyone ever expected, and then those exotic pressures of being the man in the moment, the man with the spark and in the spot, and IT could not resist. I don't know how the lore of a colossal legend space, how do you say no to that? How do you look up at those banners and say no? Being the man in the moment, and now his light is dim forever. KD has seen all these sides. We have the examples, but the moment is short, and decisions are made or decisions are thrust. A united front of "it's your call, KD." But then, I guess the real question becomes, maybe it is part of the job. Even today, when injuries aren't just bruises or pulls, but they're torn Achilles, snapped shins, torn Achilles, broken knees, and torn Achilles. Is it a virus, or is it an honest-to-God job description? Is Barkley right? Is Shaq right? Is GP right?
I played in the 96 finals with a torn calf muscle. So what? And then guarded Michael Jordan. So it is what it is.
Is this the right choice? To be tough, to risk it, to put it all on the line? Well, if we take people at their word and really believe them, when players say it's all for that one goal, I'll do anything for that chance, that one chance, that one goal, I will do anything just to win.
I'm going to try and go down into the crowd and get to Michael Jordan.
It might just be. As much as we try to wrap a line of code or stats around these players' necks and drag them back down to earth to standard human comprehension, we can't. They keep floating away against all reason. These men, some are almost God sculpted for this, in this era, in this moment, this night, and we all know it. This is art. It's beautiful. It's transcendent at times, and artists suffer, and great artists suffer greatly. For us, the hate, love, it's fluid, malleable when it comes to any form of pure greatness, and we all are in awe and stop in our tracks just to watch. It kind of stops being about a choice in a moment. It's a lifestyle, a risk when the reward balloon has blown exponentially beyond the risk. It all becomes so unhuman. The choice does have more context. It's no longer about making the right decision for a person. Once your face is on a building and your name is chanted by thousands in an arena, the right human choice looks a bit tepid, small. And what looks like the wrong choice becomes the right basketball decision. I mean, who's more defined by their profession than these people? Known publicly, globally, historically, by what they do, what they can do on this court. So with history, civilizational relevancy, and a chance to add your name to an eternally lit list that only grows in mythology over time, if the choice is should you risk your body for a single moment that can or cannot ever show its light again, the blinking moment of light that virtually no one gets to feel on their face, is it worth a limp, a pain, a brain injury, never getting to do it again? History will write all over this moment, with or without you. It may write it without you. When eternity's light is just out of reach, wouldn't you take a leap of faith? Maybe. But then there's him.
Leonard goes hard, finish, won't go, as Kevon Looney goes down. Looney had come in for the Marcus Cousins.
You talk about strong.
Kevon Looney.
He just bulldozed Looney.
This moment is also pretty huge for him, but not so much for eternity or whatever hyperbole I finally went with. His name will not be attached to any shorthand of this series, or the last, or the one before that. If he's lucky, he may develop into a name. He's clearly made an impact, but there are plenty of those to go around, and we don't have room to remember him.
Where Looney had the contact to the shoulder, he ended up on the bench icing that left shoulder, and he is now back getting x-rays. Once I have the results of that, guys, I'll get back to you.
Kevon Looney had a bit of a coming out party in 2019, and as the team was tested, he showed the larger audience what he could do. But his road is long. He came into the league injured, and then he's on the world champs, boxed in between two other still very promising players fighting for the same minutes. But quite Draymond-esque, when he got his chance, he seems to find the right places to be at the right time.
KD will take a turn on Simmons. Looney, that's a perfect rotation.
Relatively stuck to the ground, he makes the right play. Even when dragged out to the top of the key, he earns his minutes, guarding a legitimate 1 through 5. This was a big moment for him, but not for history. Free agency is next, which is often seen as an audition year, and Looney laid it on the line. But here came his choice. When we figure out that the culture of greatness may not be good for everyone, Kevon Looney got in such a brutal way. A very non-typical injury for basketball. Simultaneously, the legend Clay was hit with the touch of something.
Klay Thompson's hurt.
Thompson.
He was told he had to sit out the next game, and he fought the doctors, the staff. Legend has it he had to be physically restrained. I know. Kevon followed. Kevon fought. Clay and Looney both sat out that next game, and both were touted as tough.
You know
But to me, it's like Clay's the type who wants to play. Like they had to keep him out. Right? That's why he does. This is his first playoff game he missed.
Well, and that's why I like Clay, because he doesn't sit down. I think he should have stepped up a little bit more and say,
He tried to.
And by the way,
we were there before the game. By the way,
he a free agent. I tell him I wouldn't come back here next year if you don't let me.
All right, I got you. But he did. They literally had to force him out.
Both showing signs that they would have never sat out on their own. But Clay was in a completely different stratosphere and protocol. He was never in real danger to return. He was always just precautionary.
What's that?
He made his return the very next game, all clear. But for Kevon, this was more. He hadn't done much recovering. And the doctor told him he was effectively done. This should be it. It won't get better, but it can't get worse. But he had no choice. He did what he was supposed to do and decided to play. And we all praised him. I praised him. He had guts. This kid was real tough, a resilient professional showing us what he's made of. Not like Paul George showed us what he's made of. Clay, he survived the rest of the series. Kevon did not. It did get worse. And whether it's long lasting or something he bounces right back from, he did real damage and wasn't seen again in the series. Kevon not only possesses the face of an old head, he carries the self-destructive directive, just as the old guard does too. He had that virus. He laid his body on the line at the altar of tough. You can feel the cult nature of it all. Young Kevon, just at the start of his career, making potentially career-defining or shattering decisions on his own. As we all rally around KD and decide who to blame, nobody's questioning his decision. Because that's what we do. So for Kevin, the place he sits is already vaulted, near the light. And the decision and consequences may be infinitely more consequential, but the sickness of toughness may also have side effects of all-time greatness and mythical status, ascending into the light of everlasting relevance. But that sickness courses through all these veins just the same, and the rewards, the symptoms, are just as infinite, but in infinite darkness. The chance to be forgotten and never relevant, and unable to use your young God-given resource to bring any light into your life or the ones you love. You play this dangerous game, and you may go dark.